All right, got to roll up shirt sleeves for this one.
Good afternoon from the Shreveport office of Eagle Financial, a wealth care company. You know, it's interesting. I heard today, I think we were the first acquisition by New Spring Capital this year in June. And a firm from Tucson was acquired, finalized today. It was either the fifth or sixth one. So we're going to have an opportunity to periodically get together with some of these folks and talk about how we can improve things. Not that we need to be improving things, but I think you can always try to improve what you're doing. Anyway, Bill, it's been an interesting market, from, we had a handful of clients. We kind of always know who they are that get a little bit nervous during extreme volatility. We had one or two, unfortunately, that cashed out near the bottom around June the 17th. And since that time, we've seen more back and forth. But in the last, 6 weeks or so, we've seen the markets bust through the 65-day moving average. That is the Dow Jones Industrial Average, the S&P 500, and the NASDAQ Composite. And that's generally regarded as a short-term buying signal, or whichever way. If you go through it going up, that's a buy signal, or previously we had been in a sell signal. Well, the next one is the 200-day moving average, and we've now gone back through that on the upside. So that's a longer-term buy signal. And who would have thought that? Around June or July, who would have thought? So this is kind of where that has us today. I just want to make a few brief comments and then turn it over to you. Essentially, the Dow was just up fractionally today. The markets were kind of mixed to flat. S&P and NASDAQ were down very little, just fractionally. But the big news is, Bill, we had the BLS came out with the November jobs reports, and the non-farm payrolls employment increased by 263,000 people, which was a shock. Given that we've already had a lot of economic releases this week. We've had two, Q1 and Q2 both declined. And you could call that a recession. That's
technically speaking.
Yeah, but it really, we knew really it wasn't. And that's just a most rudimentary thing to look at. But we've had Q3 was revised up to 2.9% this week. So essentially, we've got the economy growing at 3%. Now that's looking backwards a quarter, but that's in spite of 0.75% Federal Reserve hikes in a row. So non-farm payrolls again up 263,000 jobs created. Leisure and entertainment, we did have some declines in retail and cyclical areas. But the numbers of
leisure and entertainment was up.
Yeah.
That's a trend. Reopening post-COVID.
Yeah. So, but we had, this is what I don't understand. The 10-year Treasury note yield and the 30-year yields were down significantly today. Now, given the jobs, and we're at, here's one of the Fed's mandates is maximum employment. An economy or a nation is considered to be at full employment if you're at 5% unemployment, 95% employed. We're at 3.7%, reported this morning. So it makes no sense to me that longer dated treasury yields are declining with these economic numbers the way they are, because that would suggest that there's more work to be done at or with the Fed, unless we see the inflationary numbers, which have just come down ever slightly. If they come down more,
I think that's what the market is saying.
Yeah.
And as a corollary, 30-year mortgage rates have come off their highs.
yeah, and also, we had Fed Chair Jerome Powell give testimony this week, and we got a big boost out of the markets for that, with the view that there's likely going to be a slowing down with the pace of the rate hikes and the magnitude. So the next Fed meeting is December the 14th. We're going to see likely going to see a 50 basis point hike in rates, which will be, again, 0.25% less than the 4 in a row that we've had that have been 3/4. That would be a little bit refreshing, but still, that would take the Fed funds rate to 4.25 to 4.5, and make short-term rates, go higher.
Well, the Fed recognizes, as do most people with a brain, that there's a lagged effect from these rate hikes, and they want to give the economy some time to process this, rather than just going after 100 basis point rise after 100 basis point rise until something breaks.
I think that's necessary, but you could fault the Fed for being way behind.
They started too late.
Other things of note today, there was a rotation out of gold and into silver. Gold down slightly, silver up about 2%. West Texas Intermediate down, call it 1.25% to $80 a barrel. Bitcoin busting through the $17,000 level, trying to find a bottom here. And by the bond market, very strong again today. So, that's interesting. That's got us, Bill, where the S&P 500 is down about 13.2, 13.3% year to date. And, with a month to go, it would be a pretty violent move. But the S&P 500 could even, it could recover that before the year's over. Or
it could. We don't want to mismanage anyone's expectations here.
Oh no. I don't think that it would. That would be unlikely. But we were down 23%, something like that. Now we're down 13%.
But there is a seasonality effect, the Santa Claus rally, and who knows? We may see a nice rally this month.
And also helpful, the bond market has really. I was looking at one of the very large investment grade intermediate term Dodge and Cox Income Fund is now down only 9.8%. Now that's any intermediate term bond fund down 10% in a year is horrific. But that thing was down about 15%. So it's recovered about a third of its losses, and the securities within that portfolio are yielding more than twice what they were at the start of the year. So we think that the bond market has a lot to offer, and it's going to be a lot easier to make money in bonds, in my view, in 2023.
Can I just interject there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we get questions from people, and it really surprises me. Some of the people asking these questions about bonds. And really, a bond's return is simple mathematics. Provided that the issuer doesn't default on it, it is a mathematical guarantee what you will earn on that. And so if a bond has fallen in price, and let's just look at the broad market, the broad bond market, Barclays Aggregate Bond Index is commonly used. And let's just say, the Dodge and Cox is down 10%. Well, if you own an individual bond and it's down 10% in market price, if you hold it until maturity, that price will continue to appreciate until it gets to face value at maturity. So the difference between the price today on your statement and the price at maturity, that's all price appreciation. That is a guaranteed return on your money.
Oh yeah. Let's just say you locked in, you bought that thing a year ago to yield 3%, you're gonna have to add an additional 10% to that if it declined 10%.
Yes.
Now that's not 10 plus 3. It depends what if there's a year to go on it, it is 10 plus
So
3.
if someone is
So-
very anxious about the stock market here, well, they could buy bonds on sale, lock in a return.
Absolutely, and we do. We have had steady inflows this year, and a lot of that has been earmarked for the bond market,
Mhm.
and more people are allocating back into the bond market again, where you can make something that's actually meaningful. Well, we're going to actually have Wesley come sit in my chair, but in just the first, I just wanted to throw. It's an exciting weekend in sports, Bill. You know, we had the group play with 32 teams in World Cup soccer.
What's
And
that?
what's that? Okay, so in Qatar right now, been a lot of controversy because you know
Because they don't serve beer to the fanatical fans.
they don't
That's why.
serve beer to the fanatical fans, and they've learned that somewhere between 500 and 5,000 people died building the facilities over there unnecessarily. But Team USA made it through group play with a win over Iran. So they had eight groups of 4, and the top 2 advanced to what they call the knockout round. So we're down to the final 16, and it is single elimination.
I thought the American team pronounced it Iran. That's what I heard.
No, that's the Southern pronunciation.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So it's Iran and Iraq. So Iran,
You rock.
Iraq. Iran has been eliminated. So next up,
Iran has been eliminated. We won't.
they
go there.
could be. Anyway, yes. So United States is moving on tomorrow morning. I think at 9:00 Central, they're playing the Netherlands. The Netherlands won their group. They're historically very strong. So they're playing the number 2. That's how it goes. That's how they seed them. Germany didn't make it through the rounds. They won the World Cup 2 World Cups ago. That's kind of interesting. But also the real football.
Yeah. When are you going to talk about sports?
American football.
Ah.
Okay, we've got the Big 5 conferences all having their championship games tomorrow, with the announcement tomorrow night of who makes it into the Final 4 NCAA FBS college football playoffs, which will be expanded to 8 teams in 2024.
That's good.
But right now, we've got 10th ranked Kansas State against TCU. The line on that game is only 2.5. Kansas State could easily win this game in Dallas. That would not get them into the playoffs, but it would knock TCU out of it. LSU is looking to rebound against number 1 rated Georgia, and it doesn't matter what happens, in my opinion, with LSU. I don't think they're going to win.
No.
I would be
one loss. Georgia still goes.
1 loss. Georgia still goes, and LSU has had a fantastic year, no matter what happens. But they're a 2-touchdown underdog, approximately. Purdue and Michigan. Michigan's probably got a lock on that, in my opinion. And then 2-loss Clemson. Clemson manhandled by Spencer Rattler and USC last weekend.
That's South Carolina,
yes,
not
that's
Southern
correct.
California.
That's South Carolina. South Carolina playing some of the best football in the land now. Clemson, USC, I think that game could be a toss-up. And then, did you know this, Bill? Tulane is ranked 18th in the land. Tulane from New Orleans, Louisiana, is playing Central Florida.
They'll probably lose their coach, though.
Probably will lose their coach. So that this is something to watch. I actually think this is a possibility. So you've got Ohio State sitting at 5. Okay, it's Georgia 1, Michigan 2, TCU 3. Who am I leaving out? Ohio State, Alabama. I've left somebody out of there. Who'd I leave out? Georgia,
Georgia,
Michigan.
TCU.
Oh, I left out USC.
Ah, yes.
Okay. So if USC
The other SC.
and USC, I don't know why I didn't see that. USC is playing Utah. I don't think USC is that good. But if USC loses, I think that you could actually see Alabama leapfrog Ohio State. One loss, Ohio State. We didn't really have a schedule like Alabama. Alabama lost 2 games in the last play of each game by a point. I think Alabama leapfrogs Ohio State and makes it into the college playoffs, and you have 2 SEC teams.
Here's something that's interesting. LSU is playing Georgia for the SEC championship. But yet, there are 2 teams nationally ranked higher than LSU from the SEC.
Yeah, I mean, what's happened with that, William, is the West has lost their dominance this year, and that's why, because the East got so much stronger with Tennessee.
Did you say the West or West? Because West is over
The
here
West.
trying to express his dominance.
The Western Division of the SEC is not what it was with Georgia and newly emerged Tennessee. So we'll see. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
All right, tag out. Wesley, come on.
Hold on, Jack needs to collect the rest of his stuff.
Hey, he left his mug.
It's almost clean.
Drink that.
So, you ready to rumble?
Did you bring your little truck?
Did you bring your truck? Period. Okay, so what are we doing here?
I don't know.
Wes and I were having a
I could
conversation.
well, I mean, if we're going to continue in sports, I can give everybody a pro wrestling update. What's going on with like the Undertaker?
We're talking about sports.
He did 30 minutes on soccer.
I get it. So no more non-sports talk. All right, so this is December. We're in the season of giving.
What are you going to give me?
I'm going to give you a good rebuke. How about that? So it's the season of
I left a bunch
giving.
of candy wrappers on Jack's desk.
Good.
I gave him something.
How come I don't get any candy?
You
Well-
have to earn it in this office. So anyway, Wes and I were talking about this season of giving, and I was just threw a comment out there. I said, it just seems to me that we really have our priorities messed up. And nationally, we know that we're seeing trends of household savings on the decline and credit card balances on the upswing. And that's never a good thing.
No.
And people do feel a lot of pressure this time of year to spend. And if we analyze how we're spending our money, our spending is a reflection of our values. And if we just look at our credit card statement, or if someone is maintaining a budget, and you look at where you're spending your money each month, there's a lot of spending that is not necessary, and some of that spending could be directed to things like paying yourself, right? Instead of wastefully spending, paying yourself through savings and ultimately investing. And then to which, Wes had some good feedback. And as we kind of bantered back and forth on it, we thought this would make for an interesting show topic.
Granted, it's usually earlier in the morning, and I'm not much of a morning person, so it's a little bit more argumentative in the morning. Where now I've had time to wake up, And
Oh, will you provide a better argument now that you're fully awake?
no, probably less
Okay.
argumentative. Well, the conversation started out with the fact is that I looked at it from a perspective of hope.
Mhm.
People are not in a place of, for the most part, fear and concern that the status of their monetary situation, that, and where you looked at it from a view of, which made me sad for your family for Christmas, we're excessively or overspending or frivolously spending. And I'm like, man, like, we're going to have to make sure your wife gets something nice for Christmas. But
You're welcome to contribute to
so,
that cause.
so the best part about this is he scripts everything, and then I just completely go off the cuff. Or read his notes and then cheat and then twist whatever he's about to say before he
There you
says
go.
it. It makes it a lot easier. So, I mean, but is it really wasteful spending? Like, the whole concept was that you were saying that people could be better disciplined in saving,
Mhm.
but then we kind of strayed away from the conversation of like Christmas shopping and credit, but the fact that people should create a better discipline in saving, not necessarily just for investment purposes, but for rainy day situations.
Correct.
Kitchen
And the
sink
fact is,
breaks,
most
radiator goes out.
Americans don't have any emergency savings, and that's sad. That's just the reality.
Well, especially
that
now
we're in.
after, anyways. But that's a different story. Where my point of my rebuttal was, you can't squeeze water out of a dry sponge. If there's nothing there, there's nothing there.
Mhm.
And no matter what you do, as if you take I grew up with a single mother, one income, maybe like not even a full income, but like one income, and trying to raise two kids, you have your overhead that are what some people would when you're looking at it from a far perspective, necessities.
Yep.
Barely getting by. And where would you pull savings out of that?
It's a great question. I would say most people, not
Is
everyone.
there like a drafty kind of folding paper noise that keeps on going on, like staticky?
Yeah, I hear that too. I see it actually behind the camera.
Yeah.
But anyway, I would say that a lot of people, I'll rephrase it, a lot of people, not everyone, but a lot of people can squeeze. There's more juice in that to be squeezed out, or they could reallocate how they're spending. And that goes to the discipline. We all frivolously spend on something. And maybe that person who is just barely eking by a living, needs something, some little enjoyment,
Right.
that $5 cup of coffee once a week. Okay, I'm not faulting that person. But for someone who does have more wiggle room and they're just not taking the time to analyze their spending habits, that's the person who would be a great candidate for this exercise.
Yeah. I mean, I can see what you're saying, but let's go back to that. Some people don't know how to do that. They've never been taught that. You're going to find,
Well, you're right.
they don't know how to do that. They weren't taught.
That's
and it's not
correct.
something that you're going to find in most public education systems.
No, you're absolutely right. It starts with it's your family, and if you didn't have parents or role models teaching you about money, the importance of managing your money, then no, you are lacking those skills once you go out on your own and enter the job force. Years ago, I was involved.
This seems far less argumentative than it did like this morning.
Well, you've
or
had
yesterday.
your coffee.
Well, it's not just that. I think I spun your game.
Oh, did you now?
Yes, I did.
Oh, well, I'll respin it back towards you. Years ago, I used to volunteer for an organization called Junior Achievement. It was a lot of fun. We would go into this public schools, mostly elementary age, sometimes middle school age kids, and teach programs in the classrooms about money and savings, the importance of doing these things like saving for the future, because, as you said, a lot of people aren't taught that at home. So they're not equipped. They don't even know how to balance a checkbook
Right.
or why you should be saving.
Who has a checkbook?
Well,
You just log
anyway.
in on your bank and it tells you
Anyway.
what you're doing. You press a button and it'll actually tell you where you're spending your money.
Anyway, so yes, those are two big reasons. One, okay, well, I don't have any money. Some people don't have any money, but a lot of people do. They just don't know it. And then the other is, I don't have any idea how to do this. Here, I'd throw another one in there. I don't have enough to save. Why should I even bother?
Right. I mean, we've seen in times where, let's take, someone roughly somewhere between my age and your age. So like, what would that make them, 65?
Very young.
So somewhere between my age and your age, we'll say 50s. We'll put them in their high 40s, mid 50s.
That's really not. That's not a fair. No,
Life's not fair,
no,
buddy.
it's not fair. You need to go lower in age. Anyway,
But my point being is that they're at this whatever age demographic that they're at, but they're not young, and they're not at retirement age. But the thing being is, they're working their job. They're making, say, $40,000 a year.
Mhm.
And they have they're paying rent. When they get the opportunity for like a 401k or something of that nature, to them, they're looking at it and going, what's the point of this? I'm going to put X, I'm going to put 3% in, and then I'm going to get matched. And so total 6% of whatever I'm making annually per year. And that's whatever it is. Let's just say hypothetically, let's say it's $5,000 at the end of the year that they've put into this 401k plan, and they're working for that company for the next 25 years. They're going to go, well, what am I going to do with the rest of this?
well, I actually did a little math for you before the show,
Did
and
you get your trusty calculator to do that?
yeah, somewhat. So I used the example of a 30-year-old.
Okay.
Let's take a 30-year-old.
Definitely not the age demographic I was talking about.
Well, all right, that's okay. With a 35-year time horizon, let's just say this person is thinking about retirement. That's just one goal to save towards. Let's say they're thinking about retirement at age 65. They're 30 years old. And let's say this person can put aside $200 per month. It doesn't matter how they do it. They could be doing it inside of their 401k at work. They could be doing it with a combination of that and a taxable investment account. But let's say it's $200 a month for
Right.
35 years. Well, if that person earns 3% a year, right? That's nothing. If they earn 3% a year, $200 per month grows to $149,000
In 35 years.
in 35 years. Now, let's say they double that return. They go from 3 to 6% a year. Well, you end up with $286,000. Now, let's say they can do twice as good as that. Let's say it's 12% a year. Now, that's a little unrealistic, but we're doubling. 12% a year return. That $200 a month grows to $1.3 million.
Yeah, but if they don't have $200, they don't have $200.
That's correct. But you know what? Here's something you can do. Go to the website investor.gov. There's an online calculator. It's very easy to use. It's their compound interest calculator. You put in a dollar amount that you want to begin with and a monthly dollar amount. Maybe it's $10 a month, whatever you want it to be. You put it in there. You put in an interest rate. If you maybe 7%, I think 7% is a good number. It just depends
It's
on how
below
you.
the average annual return.
Correct. It's about halfway between the average annual return of high quality stocks and high quality bonds. And then look at the result. You will be amazed. But you have to start early to get the biggest bang for the buck, and that's because of the compounding effect. The sooner you start, even with small amounts, the bigger the exponential gains you get due to compounding. So compounding just means you're not just earning interest on your principal, the amount you put in, but you're also earning interest on your interest.
Yes. Now, I mean, to somebody that's squeaking by, let's be honest, $200 a month is going to look like a lot of money.
Absolutely, it could be. Yes.
But how, I mean, are you willing to help somebody find that money? Like, if are you willing? Because Abraham Lincoln said this: there is absolutely no do not point out a problem unless you're willing to bring a solution.
Yeah. Here's the solution. And it really starts with the individual. We can't make someone do this exercise,
Right.
but everyone can on their own write down how much you're making each month, for the most part, unless you're maybe you're waitressing and getting tips, and your income varies. But most people have a good idea of how much they make each month. Most people have a good idea of how much they're spending each month, because we have fixed expenses like rent or a mortgage. Utilities vary, okay? Gasoline will vary. Food may be, I don't know, up or down, just depends. But for the most part, what you're spending each month. Look at the difference. And then go through it line by line. Where can I cut some things out? Maybe I don't go out to eat so much. Maybe I don't get that extra cup of coffee at Starbucks. Look for things that, it's not fun, but it's that discipline of deferring instant gratification today. You're paying a price today for a future benefit. And the alternative is, if you don't want to save when something comes up that you need to buy, maybe your air conditioning goes out, or you need to pay for a repair on your car. If you don't have savings, then what do? You go into debt.
Yeah.
And if you look at the cost of the debt, what you're going to pay in interest on that loan, then you're going to be paying a lot more than just the cost of that item or that repair. Wouldn't it be better if you just started putting a little bit away each month into an emergency savings so that you don't have to borrow and go into debt? And then that money will grow. It would be nice.
It's not always.
It's not always, not everyone, but I believe that most people can.
Why do you believe that?
There's two reasons why someone does not have money left over. They don't make enough, okay, that's income or revenues, or their bills are too high, your expenses. It's just a simple accounting equation. So you increase your revenues, you work more hours, you get a higher paying job, and or you cut back on expenses. We as individuals have a lot of control over that. Now, granted, there are some people who have less control over their income and over their expenses, but I believe most people have some control over that. And it's just a question of putting in the effort to make more and spend less. That's why I believe that.
But some people don't. Well, last time I checked, I can't walk in and determine how much I make per year.
You can moonlight.
You can.
Mm-hmm.
That's one avenue.
That's correct.
But I've really gone away from my life of working under the moonlight. I'm here now in corporate America, Shreveport, Louisiana.
Well, here you are.
Here I am. But so
that is the message of hope, Wes. That really is.
No, the reality is this: is we have, to a certain degree, the ability to determine if we know the work ethic and value in which we're putting, not entitlement.
Mm-hmm.
We know the work ethic and value in which we are bringing to a company. I know at one point when I was working for an organization in Southern California, when I lived in San Diego, when it came time for my annual review, I was told that I was not receiving a cost of living increase. And I was like, how is that possible in California? Like, cost of living changes every month. And they, where their rebuttal was, well, you're too new. but I proved my value.
Mhm.
I actually gave them reports on how I was increasing sales on a company-wide level as an individual, to which then they had no argument other than to have me change my position, which changed my annual salary.
Correct. Everyone has the opportunity to improve their situation in life. I believe that.
It's a matter of mindset.
And discipline. And positive actions like just taking the step of, okay, I'm going to start. I'm going to do something. Those positive actions lead to positive habits. And after, over some time of carving out a little bit of money each month and putting into savings, before you know it, it's second nature and you don't even miss it.
So back to how can Eagle Financial help somebody in this situation
Yeah.
where they know that they want to do something, but how do they start? Or how can we help them?
Here's just some generic advice that I would tell someone who wants to start saving. And I say saving because you need to be saving before you are investing. I would encourage everyone to prioritize having a savings fund. Don't worry about how much you earn on it, but just have some savings in a bank, open up a savings account, put some money in it, and keep accumulating money in your savings account until you've accumulated, something that you feel comfortable with. And there's general rules of thumb on that. Maybe it's 3 months of your income, for example, or maybe you feel like you need more because you've got some big expenditures coming down the pike. For example, you need to buy a new car in a couple of years, or whatever it may be. Start there first. Next, start thinking about saving for longer term goals beyond short term emergency saving. That's when we can have a discussion about investing, because investing really needs to be for long term savings. Now, it doesn't have to be something as long as the 30-year-old, for example, who has 35 years to save for retirement, because there's lots of things between now and retirement age that people want to save for that they could commit to investing towards that goal. And it depends on what's important to you. I don't know what's important to you. I don't know what your values are, but we can have a discussion about it. For example, you may feel that paying for your children's education is very important to you. And maybe that's a goal that's 18 years away or 15 or 10 years away. Other people may feel like that's not an important goal. They don't want to do that. That's okay. We're not here to tell you what's important to you, but we're going to help you identify what is important. And then we can help you craft an investment strategy based on how much you're willing to contribute, how much time you have to invest, and come up with something that makes sense. It doesn't have to be difficult. And one of the easiest ways to do this, and Wes, you've harped on this for a long time since you've been here, is helping clients set up automated contributions where money is electronically coming out of their bank account and it's just done, and then it hits the investment account, and then we can put it to work. That way, that individual doesn't even have to think about it. It's automated. Just like if someone's participating in a 401k at work, the money's coming out automatically from the paycheck and gets put to work, and the employee doesn't have to think about it. But anyone can ask anyone for help. I say anyone. Anyone has access to lots of people who could give them help and advice on this front. And even just talking to your banker, bankers are a good resource. Of course, investment advisors are a good resource. You may want to talk to your insurance agent, other financial professionals, who could at least get you started in this. But I'll throw something else out, Wes, and that is that people can feel intimidated. They can also feel embarrassed, especially if they don't have much expertise or knowledge about finance and markets, or they're starting late and they don't have a lot to invest. I'm just here to say that we're here to help. And I'm not talking about just Eagle Financial. Anyone who's doing this for a living is here to help. We're professionals and we're not here to judge you. We're here to help you. We're here to educate you. And we want our clients to understand what we're doing. And we never talk down, at least we don't try to. We don't want to talk down to
I definitely try to
anyone.
make sure that you guys explain things in
You do.
terminology that makes sense.
You do. It's very easy for me and Jack to get caught up in the vernacular, and because we talk this stuff every day, and most people don't know the terminology. They don't deal in this every day, and that's why they hire us. So our job is to educate and communicate in a way that anyone can understand. We will help anyone come up and to understand, and we can also talk up to anyone who has a very sophisticated knowledge of investing.
I think this is helpful.
You do?
I think it shows that it communicates caring, concern,
I hope so, because that's our heart.
and at the same time, a willingness to help somebody that maybe is trying to figure out how can they build something. I mean, whether you want to call it legacy or inheritance or retirement, however it's looked at, but it's not just about the introduction where people think that you have to come in with a certain level of money to invest, where or to do anything, whatever it may be, whatever goals-based environment that you're looking to be involved in.
Mhm.
Is there anything else you would say to the people while I move back to my normal position behind the camera?
I think this is a good conversation. And Wes, you weren't so difficult.
That's because you changed your tone.
Okay, maybe we'll just call this a draw. How about that?
Oh no, I still
No
won.
clear winner.
I still won.
I'll say this to end. Who do you want to pay? You can pay yourself by saving and earning interest on your savings, or you can pay someone else. You can go into debt and pay someone else interest. Pay yourself. You're worth it, and you can do this, and we can help you. Have a good weekend.